The first mistake I made was laughing when Audrey Quinn picked up the pool cue. Not a loud laugh, not cruel. Just one of those quick, disbelieving sounds that slips out before your brain files the proper paperwork. Audrey heard it. Of course she heard it. She turned her head slowly, her dark hair brushing the shoulder of her burgundy blouse, and gave me the kind of smile that made smarter men check for exits. "You think I can't play?" she asked. "I think," I said, leaning against the scarred edge of the pool table. "You just asked which end of the queue was the business end. I was making conversation. You were holding it backward. That was confidence. That was Audrey, 25 years old, 2 years older than me, and somehow able to make being wrong sound like a management style. My name is Miles Hart. I was 23 then, a junior designer at a small ad agency in downtown Columbus, which meant I spent most of my days making logos bigger for clients who thought white space was a personal insult. Audrey was a copywriter, sharp, fast, annoyingly good at turning 6 boring product facts into one line that made a room go quiet. We'd worked together for 9 months, and in that time she had corrected my grammar, stolen my fries, defended one of my designs in a meeting when I wasn't brave enough to defend it myself, and once left a sticky note on my monitor that said, "Your layout is sulking. Fix it." I kept that note in my desk drawer. Not because I liked her, obviously. I kept it because it was funny. That's what I told myself, anyway. The truth was, Audrey Quinn made it difficult to be normal. She had this way of looking at you like she'd already read the rough draft of your thoughts and found one sentence worth saving. Around her, I got careful. Too careful. I measured jokes before saying them. I checked my shirt for pen marks. I pretended not to notice when she leaned over my desk and smelled faintly like orange peel and printer ink. Dating coworkers was a bad idea. Dating a coworker who sat 12 feet away from me and could destroy me with an eyebrow was practically self-harm. So I did what any mature adult man would do. I became competitive. Our agency had finished a brutal pitch that Friday, the kind where everyone survived on vending machine pretzels and the threat of unemployment. Our creative director, Martin, declared we needed team bonding, which was his way of saying he didn't want to go home to his twins before bedtime. That was how 8 of us ended up at Corner Pocket after work, a narrow pool hall wedged between a taco place and a laundromat, with neon beer signs glowing in the front windows, and old rock songs playing from speakers that sounded like they'd been dropped downstairs. Audrey arrived 10 minutes after the rest of us. I noticed because I wasn't looking for her. She came in carrying her gray wool coat over one arm, cheeks pink from the cold, sleeves rolled to her elbows like she was about to negotiate a hostage release. She scanned the room, found me by the second table, and smiled just enough to make my hand tighten around my beer bottle. "You survived the Henderson pitch," she said, stopping beside me. "Barely. I saw my soul leave my body during slide 32. "That was your soul? I thought it was the stock photo of the smiling dentist." "I chose that dentist with care. You chose a man who looked excited about floss? He believed in the brand." She laughed, and that was the problem. Audrey's laugh wasn't delicate. It came out warm and surprised, like something had escaped before she could edit it. Every time I got it from her, I felt ridiculous pride, like I'd won a small private award. Across the table, our account manager, Becca, clapped her hands. "Pairs, office tournament. Losers buy nachos." "I'm with Miles," Audrey said immediately. Every head turned, even mine. "You are?" I asked. She shrugged. "You have steady hands." It was such a simple sentence. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would get anyone in trouble. But she said it while looking at my fingers around the pool cue, and for one full second, I forgot the English language. Becca made a little sound. "Interesting. It's pool," Audrey said. "Sure," Becca replied. "And I'm the Queen of England." Audrey ignored her, stepping close enough that her shoulder nearly brushed my chest as she chose a cue from the wall rack. I caught the scent of her again, citrus and paper and something soft underneath. She held one cue, tested the weight, then looked at me. "This one good?" I took it from her, rolled it across the table, watched for a wobble. "Straight enough." "High praise from a designer." "Don't get used to it." She smiled, but this time it didn't reach all the way. There was a flicker of nerves there, quick as a match strike. I saw it because I'd spent months trying not to look too closely at her. You okay? I asked, quieter. Audrey's fingers tightened on the chalk cube. I hate being bad at things in front of people. That surprised me. Audrey, who could stand in a conference room, while clients circled like sharks and still make them laugh, was nervous about pool. You're not bad, I said. You watched me hold the cue like I was about to knight someone. Very regal. Miles. I leaned closer, lowering my voice. I'll show you. No one's watching. Everyone's watching. I glanced around. Half the office was pretending not to watch with the subtlety of raccoons in a pantry. Then let's make them regret it, I said. Her eyes came back to mine. Something shifted. Not big. Not movie music big, just a small, quiet rearrangement in the air between us. I moved beside her, careful, leaving enough space for decency and not nearly enough for my pulse. Put your left hand here, I said, touching the felt. Make a bridge, not like that. You're trying to strangle the table. I'm open to feedback, not insults. That was both. She adjusted her hand. Her sleeve slipped slightly, revealing the thin silver bracelet she wore every day. I'd noticed it before. I'd noticed everything, apparently, like a complete idiot. I stood behind her, not touching at first. Q slides through here. It feels awkward. It is awkward. Pool is just geometry pretending to be a bar sport. She glanced back over her shoulder. Did you put that on your dating profile? I deleted my dating profile after a woman told me my favorite movie was a red flag. What was the movie? Jurassic Park. Audrey straightened. That woman was wrong. I know. Dinosaurs, practical effects, Jeff Goldblum sweating in a black shirt. That's culture. And there it was again. That laugh escaped me this time, too. Audrey bent over the table. I reached around, not touching her, and pointed down the line of the shot. The cue ball sat near the rail. The striped 12 waited near the corner pocket. Easy tap, I said. Don't murder it. I rarely murder things on a first date. I went still. She did too. The words hung between us, brighter than the neon signs. Then she cleared her throat. Office tournament. I meant office tournament. Right, I said. Professional billiards date. Don't make it weird. You made it weird. You enjoyed it. I had no defense, so I stepped back. Audrey took the shot, the cue cracked softly, the ball rolled, kissed the 12, and the 12 dropped clean into the corner pocket. Our table erupted like she'd won Olympic gold. Audrey stood straight, eyes wide, then pointed at the pocket. I did that. You did. I'm gifted. You're coachable. Careful, Hart. I may outgrow you. I smiled before I could stop myself. I'm counting on it. Her expression changed again, softer this time. For a second, the whole noisy pool hall seemed to pull away from us. I saw the woman under the clever lines, the one who hated looking foolish, the one who had chosen me before I had time to wonder why. We kept playing, and Audrey kept surprising me. She missed easy shots, then sank impossible ones. She accused me of sabotaging her by being visually distracting, which made Becca choke on a tortilla chip. I missed a straight shot after that because I was human, and Audrey had leaned over the table in front of me with the concentration of a jewel thief. By the time the tournament narrowed to us against Martin and Becca, the whole office had gathered around our table. The final game came down to the 8-ball, Audrey's shot. The black ball sat near the side pocket. Not impossible, but not forgiving. One wrong angle and it would bounce away, leaving Martin an easy finish. Audrey circled the table, cue in hand, lips pressed together. You've got it, I said. She looked at me from under her lashes. That sounds like pressure. That sounds like faith. Her face softened just enough to make my chest hurt. Then Martin, who had enjoyed exactly 2 beers too many, called out, Make it interesting, Quinn. Audrey didn't look at him. She looked at me. And then she smiled. Not her work smile, not her sharp meeting smile. This one was trouble. If I sink this, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear, you owe me a kiss. The pool hall went dead silent. My brain offered several responses and rejected all of them for being either too honest or legally inadvisable. Audrey lifted one eyebrow. Unless you're scared. I should have laughed it off. I should have said, in your dreams, or HR would like a word, or anything that kept the line where it had always been. Instead, I looked at the 8 ball, then at her mouth, then back at her eyes, and I said, call your pocket. Audrey's smile faded into something much more dangerous. She bent over the table, lined up the shot, and for once nobody in that room made a sound. The cue struck. The 8 ball rolled slowly across the green felt, tapped the rail, curved toward the side pocket, and dropped in like it had been waiting for her all night. Everyone shouted, but Audrey didn't celebrate. She set the cue down, walked around the table, and stopped close enough that I could see the tiny speck of blue chalk on her thumb. Then she reached up, touched 2 fingers lightly to the front of my shirt, and whispered, I didn't say it had to be on the cheek. There are moments in a man's life when he discovers whether he is brave, foolish, or just very good at standing still while his heart tries to exit through his ribs. Audrey's fingers rested against my shirt. The whole office waited. Somewhere behind me, Becca whispered, Oh, this is better than nachos. I looked down at Audrey. Up close, her confidence had cracks in it. Her chin was lifted, her mouth curved, but her eyes were asking a question she was too proud to say out loud. Are you going to make me regret this? That sobered me faster than anything else could have. I leaned in slightly, enough that the room inhaled as one nosy organism, then stopped with my mouth near her ear. Not like this, I said quietly. Her fingers went still. I heard the change before I saw it, the tiny drop in the air between us. Then I turned my head and pressed a kiss to her cheek. Not a brotherly peck, not a joke. A real kiss, warm and deliberate, just below her cheekbone, where her skin smelled faintly of winter air and whatever lotion she used that made me stupid. The room exploded. Martin whooped. Becca slapped the table. Someone yelled, HR, HR, like we were at a football game. Audrey didn't move for half a second. Then she stepped back, touched the place where I'd kissed her, and looked at me like I had done the one thing she hadn't prepared for. You are impossible, she said. I've been told. That was a technicality. That was respect. Her expression shifted again, and the teasing dropped just enough for me to feel the weight underneath. Careful, she said softly. I might start expecting that from you. Before I could answer, Martin shoved a basket of nachos between us like a man determined to ruin cinema. Losers buy, he announced, despite being one of the losers, but winners can gloat. Audrey blinked, took a chip, and pointed it at him. I accept tribute. The spell broke, but not completely. For the next hour, everything was almost normal and not normal at all. Audrey stood closer than she used to. When she reached past me for a napkin, her wrist brushed mine, and neither of us moved away quickly enough to pretend it meant nothing. When Becca asked if we wanted another round, Audrey glanced at me before answering, as if we were suddenly a unit. A dangerous little word. We. At one point, she got a smear of salsa on the side of her thumb and didn't notice. I did, because apparently I had become the type of man who tracked salsa placement on attractive coworkers. I handed her a napkin. She looked at it, then at me. You always do that. Hand people napkins? Notice small disasters before they embarrass me. I shrugged. You once walked into a client meeting with a price sticker on the bottom of your heel. You told me by stepping on my shoe. Quietly heroic. You scuffed my loafer. I saved your career. She smiled down at the napkin in her hand, but the smile was gentler now. You also fixed my presentation deck at midnight last month and pretended the file had magically recovered. I felt my ears heat. It did recover. Miles. It recovered with assistance. You didn't want me to know. You were already stressed. Audrey studied me as if I had just shown her a door in a room she thought she understood. That's your problem, she said. I have several. You do kind things and then hide them like contraband. I tried to make a joke. Kindness is illegal in Ohio after 10 p.m. She didn't laugh. Instead, she stepped closer, lowering her voice beneath the noise of pool balls and classic rock. Why didn't you let me thank you? Because if you thanked me, I might have looked too happy. Because I liked being useful to you more than I liked admitting it. Because I was 23 and trying very hard not to fall for the woman who could rewrite my entire day with one sentence. I said, because you didn't need another thing to manage. Her gaze softened. Then Becca appeared beside us with the timing of a fire alarm. So, she said, smiling like a fox in earrings, are we pretending that was normal? Audrey immediately straightened. Yes, I said, absolutely. Becca nodded. Convincing, both of you, very natural. I almost forgot you two just turned a billiards wager into foreplay for people with dental insurance. Audrey choked. I covered my mouth and looked away. Becca, Audrey hissed. What? I'm supporting workplace chemistry. There is no workplace chemistry. Becca looked at me. Miles? I held up both hands. I'm too young to die in this conversation. Audrey's eyes flicked to me, amused despite herself. Coward. Strategic survivor. Becca leaned in. Fine. But Martin is already telling everyone in accounting on Monday that you two are secretly dating. Audrey's smile disappeared. That did something cold to the air. I felt it too. Not because I was ashamed, because I knew what an office could do with a rumor. I'd seen people turn a woman's talent into a footnote under who she was supposedly flirting with. Audrey had fought too hard to be taken seriously to become someone's Monday morning entertainment. She set her half-finished drink on the high-top table. I'm going to get some air. Audrey, I said, I'm fine. She wasn't dramatic about it. She just picked up her coat and moved toward the side exit near the alley, chin high, shoulders tight. I waited 3 seconds. Then I followed. Not because she needed rescuing, Audrey Quinn could cut a man down with punctuation. I followed because the idea of letting her stand alone after I'd been part of putting that look on her face made something inside me refuse to stay comfortable. Outside, the evening had gone crisp and clear. No rain, no storm, just cold air, traffic noise from the main street, and a pale moon over the laundromat sign. Audrey stood near the brick wall, arms folded over her coat, staring at a row of parked cars. I'm sorry, I said. She didn't look at me. For what? For not thinking past the moment. That got her attention. You're apologizing because I challenged you to kiss me? I'm apologizing because I liked it when you did. Her breath caught. There. Honest, stupid, overdue. I tucked my hands into my jacket pockets so I wouldn't reach for her without permission. And because I know people will talk, I don't want you paying for a joke we both made. Audrey stared at me for a long moment. The neon from the window lit one side of her face red, the other side shadowed. You think I'm worried about gossip? She asked. Aren't you? Yes, she said. But not for the reason you think. I waited. She looked away, then laughed once without humor. I'm older than you. By 2 years. At work, that turns into a story. I'm the senior writer flirting with the junior designer. Or I'm desperate. Or I'm unprofessional. Or you're some cute distraction I picked up after a pitch. I'm not that cute. That almost got her. Her mouth twitched. I stepped closer, careful. Audrey, nobody who has seen you in a client meeting thinks you need to pick up distractions. You'd be surprised what people choose to see. No, I said. I wouldn't. She looked at me then. Maybe she heard something in my voice. Maybe she remembered I was the youngest person on the creative team and constantly mistaken for the intern, even after 9 months of doing actual work while wearing an employee badge with my actual name on it. Audrey's shoulders lowered. I hate that, she said. What? When they call you kid. I blinked. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, suddenly focused on the sidewalk. Martin does it when he wants your ideas but not your confidence. The kid's got a good eye. Like praise with a leash on it. The warmth that moved through me had nothing to do with the cold. You notice that? I notice a lot of things, she said. I smiled a little. Dangerous habit. Apparently. A car passed, headlights sliding across her face. For once, neither of us rushed to fill the silence. Then Audrey looked at me directly. I didn't challenge you because I was drunk, she said. I've had one cider. I know. And I didn't do it only to be funny. My chest tightened. Okay, I said, though nothing about me felt okay. She took one step closer, but I also don't want to become a rumor before I know what this is. This? Her eyes dropped to my mouth for one unmistakable second, then back up. Yes, Miles, this. I forgot the cold. I forgot the alley. I forgot every smart reason to step back. What do you want it to be? I asked. Audrey let out a shaky breath, then smiled in a way that tried to be brave and failed, just enough to make me ache. I want you to ask me that when half our office isn't 15 feet away pretending not to spy through a window. I glanced toward the glass. 4 silhouettes ducked at once. Audrey closed her eyes. I'm going to murder Becca. She'll haunt us with commentary. Audrey laughed then, a real one, and the sound loosened something between us. I took another small step until we were close enough that the sleeve of my jacket brushed her coat. Can I walk you to your car? I asked. She tilted her head. Very formal. I'm trying to behave. How's that going? Poorly. Her smile softened. Mine too. We stood there like that, not touching, except for the accidental line of fabric at our arms, and somehow it felt more intimate than the kiss in front of everyone. Then the side door opened behind us. Martin stepped out, phone in hand, face too cheerful. Hey, lovebirds, he said. Great news. I already posted the video in the team chat. Audrey went completely still. My stomach dropped. Because on Martin's screen, frozen under the caption Office Romance Alert, was Audrey touching my shirt, me leaning in, and the exact moment before my mouth reached her cheek. For a second, none of us moved. Martin stood there grinning like a man who had tossed a match into dry grass and expected applause. Audrey looked at the phone, then at me. Not angry, worse, embarrassed. I'd seen Audrey handle bad clients, broken printers, impossible deadlines, and Martin using the phrase, make it pop without irony. I had never seen her look small. Something in me hardened. Delete it, I said. Martin laughed. Relax, Hart, it's funny. It's not funny to her. That finally dented his smile. Audrey touched my sleeve. Miles. It was a warning. Not because I was wrong, but because she knew office politics better than I did. Martin wasn't just a loud coworker. He was our creative director. He could turn a harmless pushback into a performance review with bullet points. But I was tired of being careful in all the wrong places. I held out my hand. Martin, delete the video from the chat. His eyebrows rose. You giving me orders now, kid? There it was. Kid. Audrey's hand tightened on my sleeve. I could feel her beside me, warm and tense in the cold air, and that single point of contact kept me from saying something that would have made Monday very expensive. No, I said evenly. I'm asking you like an adult to stop making Audrey the entertainment. Martin looked from me to her and for once maybe realized he'd misjudged the room. From inside the pool hall, Becca pushed through the door. Martin, delete it. He turned. Oh, come on. No, Becca said, her voice flat now. You posted it in a work chat. That's not a joke. That's evidence. That got him. He looked down at his phone, muttered something, and tapped the screen a few times. There, deleted. From the chat, Becca said. And your camera roll. Martin rolled his eyes, but did it. I didn't relax until he turned the screen toward us and showed the empty album. Even then, the damage had already been done. People had seen it. People had laughed. And Audrey was still standing beside me, looking like she wanted to climb out of her own skin with dignity. Martin shoved his phone in his pocket. Fine, everyone happy? No, Audrey said. Her voice was quiet, but it sliced clean through the alley. Martin froze. Audrey stepped away from me, not because she wanted distance, but because she needed her own ground under her feet. You don't get to decide what makes me fair game, she said. Not because you're my boss, not because you had 2 beers, not because I made a joke you decided to turn into office content. For once, Martin had no comeback. Audrey lifted her chin. And stop calling Miles kid. He saved the Henderson deck when your big concept had 3 typos and a slogan that sounded like allergy medicine. Becca made a small, choking sound. I stared at Audrey. She didn't look at me. If she had, I might have done something reckless, like fall completely in love in an alley between a pool hall and a laundromat. Martin's face reddened. We'll talk Monday. Yes, Audrey said, we will. Then she turned, took my hand, and walked away. Just like that. No announcement, no permission. Her fingers slid between mine like they had been waiting for a place to fit, and every thought in my head went quiet except one. She chose my hand in front of him. We rounded the corner onto the main sidewalk. The air smelled like exhaust, tortillas, and cold pavement. Audrey kept walking until we reached the bright window of the taco place next door. Only then did she stop. She looked down at our hands. So did I. Neither of us let go. Well, she said, a little breathless, that was workplace development. I think you just ended Martin's bloodline. He'll survive. You defended me. You defended me first. That's not why I did it. I know, she said. The honesty in her voice made me look at her. Her eyes were still bright with adrenaline, but something else was there now. Not just nerves, not just irritation. Want. It hit me so directly I had to swallow before speaking. Audrey, I said, if holding my hand is part of a legal strategy, I should warn you, I'm not qualified. She glanced at our joined hands. I'm aware. So, this is personal? Her thumb moved once against mine. Very. A bus hissed to a stop down the street. People spilled onto the sidewalk laughing, carrying takeout bags, living normal lives while mine rearranged itself under a taco sign. Audrey took a slow breath. I hated that he made it feel cheap. The kiss? The almost kiss, she said, and then her mouth curved slightly. You're very respectful technicality. I stand by my work. You always do, quietly. It's infuriating. I'll try to be louder about my craftsmanship. She laughed, then looked back toward the pool hall. I don't want him to be the reason we step away from this. The word we landed again, steadier this time. We don't have to decide everything tonight, I said. No. Her gaze returned to mine. But I think we should decide one thing. What? If you still owe me. Every sensible part of me stood up and filed a formal complaint. We were on a public sidewalk. Our coworkers were one wall away. Monday was waiting with fluorescent lights and consequences. Audrey was 25, smart, complicated, proud, and looking at me like I was not a bad idea but a risk she wanted to take carefully. I stepped closer. Do you want me to owe you? I asked. Her voice dropped. I want you to stop acting like wanting me is rude. That one got under the ribs, because she was right. I had wrapped my attraction in professionalism so tightly, it had started to look like indifference. I'd thought restraint was the noble thing. Maybe sometimes it was. But hiding so well that she felt unwanted? That wasn't respect. That was fear wearing a tie. I do want you, I said. Audrey's expression went still. Not triumphant, not teasing. Moved. I added because honesty apparently had the wheel now. I have for a while. I just didn't want to make work harder for you. Or make you think I was some 23-year-old guy mistaking proximity for meaning. Her grip softened but didn't loosen. And are you? She asked. No. How do you know? I looked at her face, at the blue chalk still faintly dusting her thumb, at the little crease between her brows that appeared whenever she was deciding whether to trust someone. Because proximity doesn't make me remember that you hum under your breath when a headline finally works, I said. It doesn't make me know you tap your pen twice before disagreeing with a client. It doesn't make me want to be the person you look for after you win something. Audrey's lips parted. And tonight, I said, quieter, when you sank that 8-ball, I wanted to kiss you before you ever said the wager. She laughed once, soft and shaky. That would have been cheating. I'm comfortable with that. She stepped closer. Now there was almost no space left between us. Ask me, she said. My hand was still in hers. My heart was behaving like it had been thrown down a staircase. Can I kiss you, Audrey? Yes. This time nobody cheered. Nobody recorded it. Nobody turned it into a joke. I bent my head, and she rose onto her toes, and when our mouths met, it was nothing like the cheek kiss inside. That had been restraint. This was a door opening. Audrey kissed like she argued, direct, warm, unwilling to pretend she didn't mean it. Her free hand slid to the front of my jacket, not grabbing, just holding me there. I kept one hand in hers and lifted the other to her cheek, careful until she leaned into my palm. The city kept moving around us. I didn't care. When we finally broke apart, she stayed close enough that her breath touched my mouth. Well, she whispered, too much? Her eyes opened. Miles, if that was too much, I need to revise my standards upward. I laughed against her forehead before I could stop myself. She smiled, and for a few seconds we stood there like idiots in love with a possibility. Then my phone buzzed. So did hers. Audrey closed her eyes. If that's Martin, I'm feeding his phone to a bus. I pulled mine out. It wasn't Martin. It was Becca in the team chat. Since everyone saw enough to be nosy, maybe let's be adults Monday. Also, Audrey and Miles, you might want to know Martin didn't delete the first video before forwarding it to the agency group thread. Audrey read over my shoulder. Her face went pale, then very calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that came right before a woman sharpened every word she owned. She stepped back, still holding my hand, and said, "Then Monday, we don't hide." I spent the weekend learning that confidence is easier to admire in a woman than to survive when she aims it at a Monday morning. Audrey did not spiral. She made a plan. Saturday afternoon, we met at a little sandwich shop near the river because she said her apartment had too many thinking corners, and mine had a roommate who played online chess while narrating his own genius. Audrey arrived in jeans, a cream sweater, and boots that made her look calm in a way I knew she absolutely was not. She slid into the booth across from me, pulled a folded piece of paper from her bag, and set it between us. "You made notes?" I asked. "I make notes for grocery stores." "Of course you do." "Do not mock the process. The process brought you the Henderson pitch. The process also brought us Martin's allergy medicine slogan." She winced. "We do not speak of fresh airza." I laughed, and some of the tightness in her shoulders eased. That was our weekend. Strategy cut with sandwiches. Nervous glances softened by bad jokes. Her knee accidentally touching mine under the table, then staying there like neither of us had noticed. We agreed on 3 things. 1, Martin had crossed a professional line by posting the video in agency channels. 2, Audrey did not want to pretend the kiss meant nothing just to make other people comfortable. 3, we were not going to let the office turn us into a circus. The 4th thing was unspoken until she reached for a pickle spear from my plate, took one bite, made a face, and pushed it back. "You always order the wrong. Pickles," she said. "There are correct pickles?" "Yes. These taste like they were raised without affection. I'll inform the kitchen." She smiled, then looked down at the table. "Miles?" That tone made my pulse change. "Yeah? What are we doing?" It should have been terrifying. Maybe it was. But after Friday night, after her hand in mine, after that kiss on the sidewalk, pretending felt more exhausting than honesty. I leaned forward. "I'd like to take you on an actual date. One where nobody from accounting can review the footage." Her mouth softened. "That sounds nice." "Nice? Don't get greedy." I got one real kiss and became ambitious. Audrey looked at me then, and the noise of the sandwich shop dropped away. "I want that too," she said. "A date. You, us. But I need to know you understand Monday won't be cute." "I do." "If people talk, they'll probably aim more of it at me." "I know. And I don't want you fighting every person who smirks." "I won't." She arched an eyebrow. "I'll try not to." A promising revision. I reached across the table, palm up. She looked at my hand for a second, then placed hers in it. "I'm not ashamed of you," I said. Her fingers tightened. "I'm not ashamed either," she said. "I'm just tired of women having to prove romance didn't make them less competent." "Then we let your work answer that. And yours. And if Martin tries to make it weird?" She smiled, sharp again. "Then we let the process eat him." Monday morning arrived bright, dry, and brutally normal. No dramatic storm, no thunder, just sunlight across the agency's polished concrete floors and 27 adults pretending not to stare as Audrey and I walked in at the same time. We had not planned the entrance for effect. We'd met in the parking garage because I got there early and found her sitting in her car, hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. I tapped the window. She jumped, then rolled it down. You scared me. You looked like you were about to invade a small country. I was rehearsing. Want backup? She studied me. Want to be seen walking in with me? Yes. That was all. No big speech, no kiss in the garage. Just her getting out of the car, smoothing her navy blazer, and slipping her hand into mine for exactly 6 steps before we reached the elevator. Then she let go. Not because she was hiding. Because she was Audrey, and she wanted to walk into that office as herself first. I respected that more than I could say. The agency noticed everything anyway. Becca gave us a tiny salute from her desk. One of the account coordinators dropped a pen. Martin's office door was closed, which meant he had either arrived early to look powerful or late enough to avoid eye contact. At 9:15, an email came through from HR requesting a brief meeting with Martin, Audrey, me, and Becca as witness. Brief meeting, I said, reading over Audrey's shoulder. That phrase has never once been true. You okay? She clicked her pen twice. There it was. Her tell. No, she said. Then she looked at me. But I'm steady. The meeting was in the small conference room with the glass wall because apparently privacy was a concept our agency had heard of but never implemented. Martin sat at one end, jaw tight. HR, a woman named Dana who wore red glasses and tolerated nonsense the way a cat tolerates baths, opened her laptop. I've reviewed the forwarded video and the messages attached to it, Dana said. Martin posting that clip in work channels was inappropriate. Martin exhaled through his nose. It was meant as a joke. It wasn't received that way. Audrey sat straight beside me. Her hands were folded, but her thumb pressed once into her palm. I wanted to cover her hand with mine. I didn't. Not yet. This was her room as much as mine. Dana turned to us. Do either of you want to make a statement? Audrey looked at me. I nodded once. She spoke first. What happened Friday was between Miles and me, she said. It was consensual, and it was not Martin's content to share. I'm asking that the video be deleted from all internal channels, that a written reminder go out about recording coworkers in social settings tied to work, and that my professional reputation not be reduced to a joke because I flirted with someone after hours. There was no tremble in her voice. I fell for her a little harder. Dana typed. Miles? I cleared my throat. I agree with Audrey. I also want it noted that when I asked Martin to delete the video, he called me kid and dismissed the concern. That happens often enough that it affects how my work is discussed. Martin shifted. Oh, come on. Dana looked at him over her glasses. He shut up. Becca spoke next, calm and deadly, confirming everything. By the end of it, Martin looked less like a boss and more like a man discovering that charm was not a legal department. Dana closed her laptop. The video will be removed. Martin, you'll issue an apology in writing and attend management conduct training. Audrey, Miles, your personal lives are your own, but I recommend you disclose any relationship if it becomes ongoing, so reporting lines and project assignments can be handled cleanly. Relationship. The word landed in the middle of the table. Ongoing. Audrey didn't flinch, neither did I. Dana dismissed us. Outside the conference room, the office went silent in that completely unnatural way people use when they want you to know they are not listening. Audrey stopped in the middle of the creative bullpen. I stopped beside her. Martin came out behind us, red-faced. Audrey, Miles, I owe you both an apology. Audrey turned. He swallowed. I shouldn't have posted the video. It was disrespectful. I'm sorry. She held his gaze. Thank you. Then he looked at me. And I shouldn't have called you kid. No, I said, you shouldn't have. His mouth tightened, but he nodded. It could have ended there. It should have ended there. But Audrey looked around the office and saw every person pretending to examine spreadsheets, mood boards, and empty coffee cups. Then she took one step closer to me. Not hiding, not performing, just choosing. We're going to keep working like professionals, she said to the room. If anyone has questions about the campaign calendar, ask me. If anyone has questions about my personal life, don't. Becca coughed to cover a laugh. Audrey turned to me, her eyes bright with leftover adrenaline. Lunch? I smiled. Is this a work lunch or a date lunch? The office held its breath again. Audrey tilted her head. That depends. Are you going to order emotionally neglected pickles? A laugh broke somewhere near the copy desk. Then another. The tension loosened, not gone, but punctured. I looked at her, this woman who had just stood in front of a room and refused to be made smaller, and I stopped caring who saw the truth on my face. I'll order whatever pickles you respect, I said. Her smile warmed. We walked out together at noon, not hand in hand in the office, but close enough that our shoulders brushed in the elevator. The doors closed. The second they did, Audrey leaned back against the wall and let out a breath. You were good in there, I said. So were you. I almost said Martin's apology had the emotional range of a printer jam. You showed restraint. I'm growing. She laughed, then reached for my tie and tugged me gently closer. You know, she said, we still haven't had a proper date. We're going to lunch. Lunch near the office while possibly being watched by Becca through binoculars is not a proper date. Fair. Her fingers remained curled in my tie. The elevator hummed downward. What about tonight? I asked. Dinner. Somewhere with no pool tables, no coworkers, and thoroughly vetted pickles. Audrey's eyes dropped to my mouth. Tonight. Too soon? No, she whispered. Exactly soon enough. The elevator dinged. Neither of us moved. Then Audrey rose onto her toes and kissed me, slow and sure, like she had been waiting all morning for a place with closing doors. When they opened into the lobby, an elderly delivery man stood there, holding a stack of envelopes. He looked at us, looked at my crooked tie, looked at Audrey's hand still on it. Then he said, I'll take the next one. The doors slid shut again. Audrey buried her face against my chest, laughing. I wrapped one arm around her waist, and for the first time since the 8-ball dropped, I let myself hold her like this was not a mistake we were managing. It was a beginning. That evening, I arrived at the restaurant 10 minutes early, nervous enough to alphabetize the sugar packets. Audrey walked in wearing a black dress and the silver bracelet I couldn't stop noticing. She saw me, smiled, and came straight toward the table. But before she sat down, she placed her phone face up between us. On the screen was an email draft addressed to HR Relationship Disclosure. Her finger hovered over the send button. She looked at me and said, Before we do this, I need to know if you're ready for the word ongoing. I looked at the phone, then at Audrey. The restaurant around us was all soft lighting and low conversations, the kind of place where people used cloth napkins like they had been born knowing what to do with them. I had picked it because it was quiet and decent and had no history of anyone from our office embarrassing us near a billiards table. But Audrey had brought the one word that made my pulse jump. Ongoing. She stood beside the table in her black dress, calm on the outside, silver bracelet catching the light, finger still hovering over the send button. I could have made a joke. I almost did. Something about HR paperwork being the most romantic foreplay in the Midwest. But her eyes stopped me. Audrey wasn't asking if I liked kissing her, she knew that. I had made that embarrassingly clear in an elevator under the judgment of a delivery man. She was asking if I was willing to be seen choosing her, when choosing her came with adult consequences. So I stood. Not fast, not dramatic, just enough to meet her where she was. I'm ready, I said. Her mouth softened, but she didn't hit send yet. Miles? I know what it means. It means projects might shift. Okay. It means people may have opinions. People had opinions when I changed the Henderson mock-up from blue to charcoal. That was because the blue looked like a dentist's waiting room. It was a misunderstood blue. She gave me a look. I smiled, then took her free hand. Audrey, I'm not saying yes because tonight feels exciting. I'm saying yes because Friday was fun, and Monday was hard, and I still want Tuesday. And Wednesday. And whatever day you tell me my font choice has emotional problems. Her eyes shone. That was one time, she said. You said Garamond looked needy. It did. I laughed, and she did too, but hers broke slightly in the middle. Then she pressed send. Just one tap. A tiny whoosh from the phone. No fireworks, no music swelling, just a quiet email leaving her outbox while my whole life took a clean turn. Audrey set the phone aside and finally sat across from me. There, she said, exhaling. We are officially inconvenient. I've always wanted to be inconvenient with someone. Dream big, heart. Dinner was our first real date, though it still had traces of the two people we'd been before. We argued over appetizers like a legal proceeding. She told me she had once taken a pool class in college for 3 weeks and quit because the instructor called every woman sweetheart. I accused her of hustling me. I never said I knew nothing, she said, cutting into her pasta. You asked which end of the queue was the business end. To lower your guard. My guard has been low around you for months. That stopped her. I hadn't meant to say it quite like that. Audrey set down her fork. Months? I leaned back, suddenly fascinated by the candle. A few. How many is a few? More than 3, fewer than 9. That is not a number. It is a legally defensible range. She tried to hide her smile and failed. What gave you away? The sticky note. Her brow furrowed. Which sticky note? The one that said my layout was sulking. Audrey stared at me. You kept that? I should have lied. I absolutely should have lied. Yes. Her face changed in a way I would remember for years, not smug, not amused. Tender? You ridiculous man, she whispered. Professionally, yes. After dinner, we walked along the river with our coats buttoned and our hands linked between us. The city lights trembled on the water. She told me about growing up with a father who loved words but never believed writing could be a real job. I told her how I had spent my first month at the agency terrified someone would realize I was younger than everyone else and send me back to whatever imaginary kids' table Martin kept mentioning. Audrey bumped her shoulder against mine. For the record, you were never the kids' table. For the record, you were never just the sharp woman in the conference room. What was I? I stopped beneath a bare tree wrapped in tiny white lights. You were the person I looked for after something went right, I said. Audrey went quiet. Then she stepped into me, slipped her arms around my waist, and kissed me under those little lights, like the answer had been waiting there all along. And before anyone expects me to narrate the rest of that night like I'm trying to get us banned from decent society, let's move to the next morning. We both went to work. On time. Separate cars. Professional adults. Mostly. HR replied before lunch with a short acknowledgement and adjusted one project so Audrey would not be reviewing my work directly. Martin acted painfully polite for about 2 weeks, which was honestly more unsettling than the original problem. Becca left a tiny toy 8-ball on my desk with a sticky note that read, "For emergencies." Audrey stole the sticky note and stuck it inside my desk drawer beside the first one. That became our thing, though neither of us planned it. Not coffee orders, not grand gestures, notes. Little pieces of paper hidden where the other person would find them. On my monitor, this headline is flirting with disaster. In her planner, your 2 p.m. client does not deserve your good pen. On my sketch pad after a bad meeting, the kid has a good eye, the man has a better spine. I kept that one too. 3 months later, Audrey beat me at pool again, fair and clean, at a different bar where nobody from work was invited. She sank the 8-ball, set down her cue, and said, "If I sink this, you owe me rent." I nearly scratched. By the following spring, she was promoted to senior copywriter, not because she was dating me, not despite it, but because she was very good at her job and had finally stopped letting men like Martin make her shrink before she spoke. I left the agency that summer for a design studio across town. Not because of gossip, not because things got messy, because a better job opened, and Audrey was the one who told me I'd be an idiot not to take it. Our first argument as a couple happened over that offer. I said, "I don't want you to think I'm leaving because of us." She said, "I will personally pack your desk if you turn down a raise to protect my feelings." So I took the job. She helped me carry 2 boxes to my car. At the bottom of one, under old markers and sample books, she tucked a note I didn't find until later. Go be excellent somewhere else. Then come home and tell me about it. Home. We weren't living together yet, but after that, the word started following us around. A year after the pool game, we moved into a small apartment with uneven floors, too many windows, and one hallway closet Audrey claimed was for coats. but immediately filled with notebooks. I brought the toy 8-ball, she brought the silver bracelet dish from her dresser. We bought a cheap pool table for the community room downstairs and discovered we were both terrible at assembling furniture without blaming the instructions. 2 years after that first wager, I proposed in the same pool hall where it started. Corner Pocket had replaced the old neon sign, but the tables were still scarred, the music still too loud, and the nachos still structurally questionable. I waited until she lined up the 8-ball, then I said, "If you sink this, you owe me forever." Audrey froze, turned, saw me holding the ring. For once in her life, she had no quick reply. Then she wiped her eyes, called the side pocket, and sank the shot. She said yes before the ball stopped rolling. We got married the next fall in a small brick venue with string lights and terrible acoustics. Becca gave a toast that included the phrase, "emotionally neglected pickles," which confused half the guests and delighted the other half. Martin was not invited, but to his credit, he sent a polite card and did not record it. Sometimes people ask if dating a coworker was worth the risk. The honest answer is, it depends on the people. For us, it wasn't the kiss that changed everything. It was what came after. The moment she refused to hide. The moment I stopped mistaking fear for respect. The email that said ongoing, the notes in drawers, the ordinary mornings where Audrey stands barefoot in our kitchen, reading a sentence aloud and asking if it sounds too clever while I pretend to think about it just so she'll throw a towel at me. Last winter, on our 3rd anniversary, we went back to that pool hall again. Audrey wore a rust-colored sweater, her hair clipped back, that same silver bracelet on her wrist. She beat me naturally. Then she crooked her finger, pulled me close by the collar, and kissed me right there beside the table. No audience, no wager, no rumor. Just my wife, smiling against my mouth like she had known from the beginning that I would be worth challenging. What would you have done if your coworker sank the winning pool shot and said you owed her a kiss in front of everyone? And have you ever had people turn a private spark into office gossip before you were ready to understand it yourself? Tell me your story in the comments. And for those who'd like to be a little closer to us, we've opened memberships where you'll get shorter, exclusive stories every week with no ads. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.